Hello everyone and welcome back to Back COD Banter. I'm Tucker Hazel and of course I am joined by Sergeant Dan and Andrew Roscoe of My Star Wars Show fame, and today we are here continuing our Call of Duty retrospective series, reviewing each and every entry in this godforsaken long-running franchise, and we have finally reached Black Ops. I would say maybe second most iconic in terms of name recognition mini franchise sub-series.
Depends on who you ask. It kind
Modern
of took
Warfare,
over.
Black Ops. Who knows? Who knows? We got the two, but we're here to talk about Black Ops. And if you really enjoy this, you want to hear our ranking of these. We've got all the other reviews for the previous games in the series, and we'll be continuing each and every month reviewing the new game as it comes out. But boys, Black Ops, a heck of an experience for me. First time playing through it. I want to start with Andrew. What do you think of Call of Duty Black Ops?
So right now, just to go off of what you said about the whole name recognition, I kind of have to agree with Daniel. I think when I hear COD Blops, as we called it back in my Blops, Black Ops,
Of course,
is synonymous with Call of Duty. Where I think of Black Ops before I think of Modern Warfare, even though I prefer the Modern Warfare games. But
you got that baton pass. I think it went from Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah. Black Ops. I remember this was the last. I think this was the last COD that I got at midnight. I actually went to like a midnight when it went down to the GameStop for midnight release.
Yeah,
and I remember being like super hyped for it. I completed that campaign like that same time at midnight. The sun was coming up, and I had just started the multiplayer. I actually really enjoy Black Ops, even though it's not my preferred sub series of Call of Duty.
Sure,
but as a history buff, I liked all the nods, all the references to like historical figures, and then kind of how it kind of plays with that too. We'll get into it later on, but it kind of like suggests like a slightly altered story of what actually happened with certain events later on. But Black Ops is awesome. I love it.
Daniel, what do you got to say about Black Ops?
Oh, this game. That's a fun game. I like how they play with the narrative. I think that this is them like, because Treyarch's their initial few games were pretty straightforward. Like they're all pretty just World War II games, and then this was like, all right, we're gonna take a narrative. We're gonna have a cast of characters, and we're gonna play with them. We're gonna have twists and turns. I think the gameplay is still great. It's that in between. It's not futuristic, but it is more future than what they're used to. So
it's slightly older than Modern Warfare.
They kind of can get away with a few things. But even though some tech still seems like out of not in that era.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the game's great. Woods is just awesome. Woods is my favorite.
There are a couple of things that are anachronistic, just from a firearms perspective, like certain guns that wouldn't appear for another 10 to 20 years after the game takes place.
Interesting.
But I think that might be what Daniel's referring to, but some of the tech is a little kind of like, I don't think we were quite there just yet.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I didn't notice any of that. I know nothing about these elements of history. I know nothing about, especially gun history. That is not my forte. So what I got here was a very surprising new twist on Call of Duty. As has been stated here, I've not been a Call of Duty guy until we started this series, and us reviewing these games is me going completely fresh and ostensibly blind into each of these. I'd never even heard the name Alex Mason. I'd never heard of the numbers before. I'd heard of the name Black Ops, but I had no idea what it was in for. And I came out the other end surprisingly pleased. I think this is a very good game. I think that it trends a little too hard sometimes into action, go, and I think there's an appeal to that, and I certainly enjoyed it. But I also think that toning things down for a calm mission or two probably would have helped the pacing of this game. But from a story perspective, from a character perspective, from a format perspective, I think the structure is my favorite aspect of this game. The idea that you are filtering through Alex Mason's memories and you can't really tell what's real or not. And, it becomes pretty blatantly obvious that Alex Mason, not the most reliable narrator. And you're trying to figure out if what he's saying is true, and this interrogation is going on between missions. You're cutting back to the interrogation room. I found that to be really fascinating. And especially how the game ends and it sort of ties into historical events. I'm like, this is very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Hudson's probably more the main character, to be honest.
Sure.
Over Mason.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think what's interesting about this game is I think it has the best fleshed out cast that we've seen so far. I mean, I like some of a few characters from the other games, but it certainly focuses very hard on one or two. But here you've got Woods and Bowman and Reznov and Mason, and they're each interesting in their own ways. And when we're cutting between the stories, I'm like, oh, okay, I want to know what Hudson was up to now, and where is Reznov right now? And of course, all those storylines converge and weave in and out of each other, and I think that's why it feels so rich in terms of characters.
I like how they do the in between missions when obviously, I mean, the whole game Mason's being interrogated, right? This black site kind of thing. He's being interrogated about what these numbers and stuff mean. And I just like how we get those rapid like montage scenes of like documents and then blacked out, redacted, and like numbers thrown at you. And it's kind of just like a surreal, like sort of hypnotic kind of just montage of numbers and like nonsensical stuff that you kind of look at it and it's like, okay, this is what's they're referring to this moment. And like you see, like it looks like a file dropped, and all like the montage kind of just kind of snaps you out of it. And then like we'll get the picture or we'll get like the portrait of who you're gonna play as next for like the next mission or so. I kind of like that because it kind of helps like kind of break up the moments of like, okay, we're transitioning now to going back to the past again, going back to the past, going back to that specific mission. I like the little visual breakup of that.
Even with that, I love like in between missions, like you'll hear the interrogator in between as you'll see dialogue, which gets a little awkward. Like there are a few instances where the interrogator is talking when there is actual conversation in the memory, which gets a little weird, but it's really cool just to get flashes of Mason just sitting in this chair, bloodied up and stuff, and his mind going crazy. It kind of goes along with that a little bit. And even when like you start a mission too, you're talking about the blackout stuff, it does the blackout, and I think that's always so cool.
Yeah, because it really does make it feel like what you're learning, you shouldn't be learning. Like, this information is not supposed to come out. And frankly, is any of it even true? Is some of it true, some of it not? Like, that is, I think, why the narrative is compelling. Even if it, in a larger scale, like, or moment to moment, I kind of felt like this is somewhat nonsense. Like, things are just happening. We're going back to a random point in time. Who knows what's actually happening here? But I think that's what the game is going for. So it's very intentionally designed in that way. Mm-hmm. What any of the moments in this game, any particular missions, any experiences that you remember coming on when this game came out initially, any moments that stick out to you guys?
I really enjoyed the SR-71 mission when you're off on when you climb up to the Blackbird, basically the Blackbird. You get in and then you switch back and forth between the ground and the air perspective, and you're kind of just like, it's almost like an RTS. You're moving your units kind of like, okay, it's clear, go ahead. It's like hold up, and then it transitions back to the ground, and then you like take over from there. Shoot. And then you like shoot your way, and then back into the sky. That was really fun for me, like the whole like micromanaging of that.
I mean, it's a really creative expansion of, I think, what mission in Modern Warfare, where you're looking down and above, you're shooting the things like that above the ground. Sort of camera perspective, shifting it to intercutting between you actually taking control of the soldiers and taking out the people. Okay, and now you can move on, and you're looking at it from above, and you can see when the cars are coming and stuff like that. That is super unique, and I love that moment as well.
There's a lot of like little moments, like, or even I guess grand moments where like one really early on, just you take the missile launcher and you're shooting a missile out of the sky. Like that's just a super cool moment. Just this missile just exploding in the air. Yeah,
and especially when you take control of the missile. And honestly, I would have liked that mechanic to be utilized a couple more times, because I think it's really cool that you sort of guide the missile through the air. But they're always just like, you make sure you point it right, and then 4 seconds later you'll hit your target. But I really like that in terms of, it's definitely a new mechanic, because we'd never seen anything like that in the other games.
I always love the race missions too. So you get a bike mission with a shotgun. You're like, cool, reloading it.
A Terminator 2.
Yeah, the Terminator 2. You're just on a motorcycle.
That shotgun is just like a sniper. People just die immediately if you're even pointed in their direction. It's hilarious. But I think that also contributes, like, the ridiculous nature of that. Like, that is not realistic at all. But that contributes to the over-top, like, bombastic nature of this story, which, as I said, sometimes I feel it can lean a little too heavily into that, where explosions are just going constantly, and you're running, and things are happening, people are yelling. It's like, whew, this is a lot. But it is the tone of the game.
I like the kind of emotional swell of the breaking out of Vorkuta with like a step 1, like acquire the keys. Step 2, like this ascend from dark, like they're doing like the little chant of like they're like breaking out. It's like skewer the winged beast. It's like, oh, that's the helicopter harpoon it and stuff, and like rain fire. That's like that slingshot thing. Like like they use like very colorful, like romanticized language, and it's like
and they had this plan.
Yeah.
And he's explaining it. Yeah, it's super cool.
Because it just sounds like nonsense until you're like, oh, I get it. Where it's like a metaphor. I get it.
Yeah,
So,
and
like,
Rise from Darkness is getting on the elevator and then riding up and stuff. Yeah, no,
All
there's
that
definitely a really cool moments. I think most of those kind of moments for me come from Reznov, who I think is my favorite character in this game because, as it's revealed near the end, he probably died really early in the game, and anytime you've seen him since then, it's Alex Mason projecting because of his mind control or he was brainwashed. But I think even just learning about him before that, I'm like, okay, why is he here? What is his goal? Like, whose side is he really on? I mean, and seeing him as like a leader in that first Fukuda mission, like, makes him an instantly interesting character. And the dynamic between Alex and Reznov, I think, is probably my favorite dynamic in the series so far.
The whole conversation with him saying like we're brothers or like soldiers who are like been discarded or whatever from our like nations, and like I think he says like soldiers without armies. I think he says that phrase at one point. But I'm curious, Tucker, did you catch on at any point, or was it until Hudson explains that he was never there and you're like, oh? Because for me, I remember when I first played, the first time I played it, I was kind of like, it seems like I'm like, man, like it's like you kind of have to suspend disbelief. Like, man, it seems like Reznov really just shows up at these random moments. Like, how convenient. And it wasn't until everything was explained I was like, that's why. So did you have that aha moment? Or
I want to answer that real quick. There's one shot there with the boat. He's like, you're on the boat getting out of that mission, and he just like shows up on your side. And that was even when I first played the game back 2010.
I forgot about that.
I was like, where did he even come from? But go ahead, Tucker.
No, yeah, I mean, I might have like been like, okay, this is kind of convenient, but I never really thought too much of it. I think the twist is really cool, and it kind of reframes the story in an interesting way. I mean, it makes Alex Mason an even less reliable narrator because my favorite character wasn't even real, but or to a certain extent. But I think that's one of the most interesting aspects of this game's story, and the idea of going through his memories and things being redacted, that kind of like connects in a really interesting way to what information is real, and even an entire character not being real for a majority of the runtime.
Having known that, there was things that I picked up on this time playing it again where I already know Reznov's not real past the escape, and so like there's things where I hadn't noticed the first time that makes sense the second time. Like, for example, when Reznov introduces himself to other soldiers and like they don't respond because he's not there, and then like whenever Mason is talking to Reznov, some of their soldiers are like what's going on with you, Mason? They're like, oh, like, stop messing around, like, get over here, like all those times where I'm like, oh shoot, like I didn't notice that before, but like retrospectively, like that makes sense. But no one responds. He introduced himself, no one responds to him. No one ever acknowledges him outside of Mason. So I thought that was really cool.
For me, I think the most memorable mission is I don't know, remember the name of it. I just have to sort of generally explain what you were doing. Is the mission where you're rescuing one of the scientists, and you're going through these really tall buildings. It looks like.
That's the it's in Hong Kong, Kowloon. When you're
in Hong Kong, yeah.
When you freaking break the glass, shove it in his mouth.
Yeah.
Like, Clark is a scientist.
I just really loved the scale and concept of incredibly tall buildings, and you're jumping between them, and you're running away, and you're crashing through people's like rooms and stuff, and popping out the other side. Like, there's nothing else like that in this game, because this game is very diverse in terms of the locations you're going to, the maps, the structure of the missions, as we've been saying. But this one, I think the concept of this map really blew me away in terms of how different it was from anything we'd seen in the previous games.
Freaking the base high jump, whatever, from the snowy mountains, and you're just like falling forever.
He hits the ground pretty hard still. Like, he's probably dead.
Okay, well, so frankly, I don't know much about the reception of this game. I don't really know how this game has fits into the larger ethos. Any information that you guys have as longtime COD players, as fans of this game, as fans of Black Ops, is there anything that you want to talk about regarding Black Ops' importance in game history in the Call of Duty franchise? Anything?
Dan, you want to go first, or?
Sure. So as I said, the last episode, Modern Warfare 2 is really the explosion into the mainstream success, and Black Ops only continued that. This game was massive. It won't really get even more massive, I think, until maybe Black Ops 2. I think Black Ops 2 might be the highest selling game. I could be wrong.
I
But
can do that research, but maybe.
Sure. This game is also one of the higher selling ones as well. This game really exploded. The multiplayer was very popular. The RC car, I think, is classic. Everybody loves the RC car. But yeah, this game. I was in high school. I think what was it, 2010. So this was prime game time, like right off of Modern Warfare 2, because that game had a bunch of DLCs. Then straight into this game, and this game they supported it, and I think this is overall Treyarch's probably best game in my opinion. Sure. Even though I like personal World at War more, overall as a package, I think like this game is just impressive.
Yeah, I remember. I was already, I think, a year or two out of high school when this game came out. But I remember there was way more people at the midnight launch for this than there was for Modern Warfare 2 about 2 years before that. No, the year before that, actually. I'm sorry, the year before that. And so I can attest to Daniel. When
These puppies are yearly.
Yeah, I can attest to what Daniel says when this one was it did better, or it seemed to be much more popular. As for the multiplayer, this was like one of the first ones where like they really started going ham with like the customization, because before this, like you kind of just had I think you got just your attachments, but here like you could like change the color of the reticle, change the symbol of the reticle, like. And then this is the first one I think that had a plethora of DLC, because they had like Zombies DLC, and they supported that for I think almost until the next game came out. They like right up until that point, because they added like I don't know if Daniel remembers. I think they had wasn't there like Danny Trejo, like one of the DLCs and stuff like.
That's getting into the other Black Ops games.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, World at War did have Zombies multiplayer or DLC as well. This game definitely had more. Yeah, they went way more with it. In terms of like DLC, I think they all have had it since Modern Warfare. It's just this is when they started like, oh, you guys want to pay for maps and stuff? We're gonna keep adding more and more and more until you guys.
That's true. They did have DLC before that for all the CODs, but this was like a substantial amount of DLC for this game, and then just of course the whole memes, right, of numbers, Mason, what do they mean?
The number.
My cousins, my friends and cousins, they still reference that the whole whenever we mention something about like anytime we see like binary code 0-1, like they'll make the like matrix the numbers, what they'll bring that up and stuff. So like it's definitely a bigger part of like the Call of Duty like kind of zeitgeist culture. So
sure, yeah. I mean, the one thing you mentioned in there was, and I obviously I don't know how accurate this is or where it applies, but Danny Trejo being involved in one of these Call of Duty games, DLC, whatever, is the voice cast of this game. I mean,
Sam Worthington.
Yeah, but were there any like huge name actors in the previous games? I think there might have been one or two.
Kiefer Sutherland. He was.
Sure.
World at War.
Yeah. So there was a handful of it, but I think that, like looking at the voice cast here, like it's pretty stacked all the way down, especially for the main characters. And hearing performances from Ice Cube and Gary Oldman and Sam Worthington and Ed Harris, and also I saw in the credits small roles from Troy Baker and Nolan North. Just really cool that they have big voice casts for this game, or the big famous people from movies doing the voice cast for a Call of Duty game. And Gary Oldman's performance as Victor Reznov is one of the reasons why I think that character is so compelling. And Ed Harris, perfect as Hudson, because he also just kind of looks like
he looks
Harris.
like him, yeah,
a little bit, yeah.
Like I saw him take off his glasses
too. Kind of like Billy Bob Thornton, yeah.
But I just love that they have a famous voice caster. I think it really adds to the spectacle.
James Burns, who voices Woods, I met him once before at an airsoft game. About a year or so after the game came out, he was at an airsoft event, and I got to play against him. Didn't really like talk to him that much, but I thought it was cool. It was worth it.
Did he act like Woods?
You'd hear him speak, and
like
it's like,
bandana?
and I was like, no, I don't think he had the bandana, but I remember hearing him speak, and I'm like, oh shoot, like he is Woods, like how some voice actors have to try to do the voice, like for him it's just naturally. I'm like, oh shoot,
that's his actual, that's his human
voice.
Normal speaking voice. That's
default
nice.
Voice, yeah.
So, interesting question for you, Andrew. As a history buff, as a fan of history through Call of Duty's eyes, what is in this game that sparks your interest most in terms of the alternate history aspect of the story?
So in the game, they mention how, so the Bay of Pigs invasion was in 61, And then if you pay attention to the game's timeline, like he disappeared. Mason disappears for several years and doesn't pop up again. Like what's his name? Hudson mentions he pops up during like the actual prime of Vietnam, right? About 5 years later. In between that, JFK gets assassinated. 63, I want to say. I think 63 or 64. I forget which. But he gets assassinated. And so like remember when the part where like he gets picked up from the airport, he gets like the motorcade to the Pentagon. And like he has like those weird like spasms kind of where he wants to reach for a gun and like all that, right?
There's that flash.
There's that flash. Yeah. And then later on at the end of the game when you're fighting Dragovich and he's like, he tried to make me kill my president. He's like, tried? Like he laughs, right? And so like it's implied because there's a part where he says, what's the guy's name? Let's compromise. The guy who actually killed JFK. I forgot his name. Oh shoot, I can't remember his name.
Oh, the actual killer? Oh, now you're making me feel like an idiot.
Yeah, I can't.
It begins with the O, I think, right? Oh shoot, I can't remember his name. But anyways, he's after you knock out Hudson in the interrogation room, you walk off and you have like that weird mental breakdown, and he says I forget the guy's name, is compromised. He says is compromised, and at the very end of the game, you see him like where you get like the real plane. Like
Lee Harvey Oswald. I can't believe I forgot that name. We're all on the same page there. It's okay. It's okay.
Yes. He says Oswald is compromised as he's walking around, and then you actually see him like he shows up in the background, kind of like a Forrest Gump kind of thing, where he's like in the real, like the actual real.
Yeah, at the very end of the game.
That's like the extra credit scene. Yeah.
Yeah. So like all that stuff is like, oh shoot, like Mason killed JFK and no one really knows it. Basically.
Yeah. That's
what they're implying.
Well, because Dragovich says like tried, like oh, you tried to make me kill my president. He's like tried, like you don't remember you did because he went under MK Ultra and all that other crazy psychotic stuff, and I just thought that was crazy. That's like, I mean, in canon for the Call of Duty universe, in canon,
this isn't a historical video game.
This isn't historically accurate. Nova 6 and all this. Who knows? But yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. I mean, my friends were with me when I finished this game just a couple days ago, and they thought it was kind of funny because I do think that the implementation of like slotting Alex Mason into this picture of real people doesn't look great. It's not great. It stands
out. It looks weird, yeah.
But I think the idea of that, even if it is ridiculous and over the top, like that's a really interesting storyline to play with, and spoilers or not, I don't think that they continue that down the line. They might, who knows? But I like the idea of rewriting history through these storylines because I enjoyed the early COD games, but they did feel like they were just trying really hard to recreate things that had happened and didn't leave a lot of space for experimentation, creativity, well-rounded characters, narrative arcs. It is you win the war, and you're planting that flag at the top of a building in like 3 of the first 5 COD games. But now with the experimentation of Modern Warfare and Black Ops, I feel like I'm able to really get invested in the stories and be curious about what these teams have created because they're just coming up with their own stuff. And this one really feels like the best aspect of that we've seen so far.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely, that's why I told you last time when we got together. I'm curious to see what Tucker's going to say about this one because this is like the first time where they actually kind of take some creative liberties with the story and the timeline of stuff. So it's not the last time, I can tell you that. But
yeah,
I'm glad. It seems like you enjoyed it. So I don't know if you guys are ready to rank it or if you have any other last bits you want to throw out there. Any last thoughts on it?
Daniel, any other topics? You're scratching your chin.
Yeah.
And then one more thing. The doctor or the scientist that Tucker was talking about, the one you punch with the glass and everything, it's also voiced by Gary Oldman. So.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Another thing in there too.
Very talented. Yeah. Very talented, man. This game's just great. That's all really.
Oh, got one more
Tucker.
thing?
Yeah, hold on, Tucker. Were you peeved off being forced to do one more World War II mission, or were you okay with that?
No, I don't. I don't care. I mean, honestly, I think that the strong suit of this game is the variety, as I was saying, and like no two areas felt like they were repeated too many times. I mean, you're in mountains, you're in the jungles in Vietnam, you're doing missions in like American buildings. You're like you're going everywhere, all across the world, all sorts of places. So including a World War II mission and including missions from across history definitely makes us feel like, oh, we're really stretching and trying to incorporate as many storylines as we can. So that didn't bother me, and frankly, I thought it was cool to be able to like stitch it back together like that.
Did you have like a low point? Like, was there a part of the game where you're like, this is the least part I enjoyed?
Or... I don't know. I think that for me, the game is mostly moments that stick out. I think that there was a point in time where I had played like half the game in a day, and at that point, all of the explosions and the constant go and like, because there's like no down like slower missions. It moves constantly, and that I think got a little grating for me at a certain point. But it was never bad. It was just like, I need to step away. I need to take a break. I've been playing this too long. I need to come back when I'm focused again, re-energized, because. And obviously, this game's not very long. I mean, it probably took me 4 hours, 15 minutes or something to beat. But I do think that it works best in small chunks, at least for me. Like, I can't really take that full stimulation for, like, 4 hours straight.
It moves. Yeah. It's definitely a give and take with all the Call of Duties, I think. Because some people are like, oh, well, I want the game to be fast and explosions and all that, and then some people are like, break it up, give me some other mission. So Call of Duty there's always a weird thing with all of the Call of Duties. People
don't know who to please.
It's a tug and war all the time with the fans, and that's from campaign to multiplayer. There's always they're trying to please everyone.
The only part of the game I didn't like, and I think it was just a skill issue on my behalf, was I played it on regular normal difficulty, was the mission where you're as Hudson and you're wearing the gas mask with like the whole suit. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't matter if your health regenerates, because your health is based off the glass of your suit. So if that cracks, like
that thing got real cracked for me. Let me tell you.
So no matter how good your health is, if that thing cracks, like, you still die either way. So I had to restart that one probably like 2 or 3 times. And
I think that mission's interesting. I was on a lower difficulty, so it wasn't that as hard for me. But the idea of like the pressure of, if you get shot too much, like, you can't even just like back away and let your health regen like you can other. Like, there's a different kind of pressure for this, and Nova 6 I think is a really interesting like story point, and having it be incorporated in a mission like that certainly helps that one stand out.
If you like glass breaking and it affecting the game, go play Metro.
Oh yeah, well.
I want me to play it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have one more thing that we need to do here, and that is rank Call of Duty Black Ops amongst the other 6 games. Jesus Christ, this is our 7th game that we've reviewed so far. Now, the ranking as it stands at the moment, starting from bottom top, just to spice things up. At the bottom, we've got Call of Duty 3. At number 5, Call of Duty 1. At number 4, Call of Duty 2. And from 3 to 1, it's World at War, Modern Warfare, and Modern Warfare 2. Now, Andrew, I want you to start the bidding. Where does Call of Duty Black Ops belong for you on that list?
Between Modern Warfare and World at War.
Daniel, any problems with that? What's your contention?
I thought we were gonna get spicy, but
might as well get spicy.
No, because Andrew is exactly where I am. I think both Modern Warfares are better, even though I really like this game a lot. So I'm gonna put it at 3.
Now, I'm gonna ask this question preemptively, and I want you to answer after I finish giving my ranking. I want you to tell me what you think might be spicy for our placement of this game, because actually, I completely agree as well. This is my 3rd favorite that we've played so far. I love Modern Warfare 2. I like this game a lot, but I think Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2 are a little bit stronger and consistent creative visions. They don't have the grading element that was like, okay, this is getting overwhelming. They felt a little more focused. So for me, this is also number 3. There's no contention here across the board.
I was just expecting maybe someone to have it, above Modern Warfare 1, and I would have a problem.
I thought Tucker would, honestly. I thought Tucker might, just because getting to know Tucker, I know Tucker likes experimentation and things that are more kind of unorthodox.
Yeah.
So I thought, because Modern Warfare, Modern Warfare 2 are much more straight-laced in approach, I thought like Tucker would really appreciate the weirdness of Black Ops, and that's why it would go higher.
It's interesting. It is definitely the most creative, like out of the box that we've gotten so far. But I think that I felt the creativity, quote unquote, no, definitely creativity of Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2 more, because coming off of, these first 6 games, 4 of them are World War II. And those 2 are not. And they do take liberties with historical storytelling. And they do create real characters for the first time. And so Modern Warfare 1 and 2, playing these games chronologically, I'm like, oh, this is creativity. This is really fresh for the series. And this is obviously, Black Ops is very fresh for the series, but I wasn't as blown away by, oh, they can do characters now. Oh, they can do like take liberties with historical retelling now, because we've already gotten that with Modern Warfare 1 and 2, and I think that this is a different take on that. I think maybe not, I don't enjoy it as much personally, but an equally compelling one. So I like these two tracks that we're going on, but that's why it doesn't quite hit that same high as me. Maybe just because those two came first, and frankly, I do think they are better games. I actually had a lot of slowdown on this game. I played it on PS3 like I'm playing all these games, but I had a lot of frame rate dips, and a couple times the game would just freeze, and I'm like, damn.
You think is it a PS3 issue, or you think it is the game?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't had any issues with I've played most of these games on PS3.
My next question, Tucker, was because I do think the Treyarch games are made with a slightly different engine than the Infinity Ward ones. Did you notice visually? Because I played the remastered one, so my view might be askewed. But since you've been playing it all on PS3, this game does look visually a step back from Modern Warfare 2, right?
I think I agree. I like in terms of like fidelity. I was noticing a lot of like pixelated trees. Like the branch of the tree was like pixel. I'm like, okay, all right. That didn't hurt my impressions at all. I do think the game looks very good, especially the character animation is really impressive in this game and captures the performances of these very skilled actors like Ed Harris or Gary Oldman. But yeah, in terms of like actual resolution, it did seem worse. But also, I need to see them side by side. I certainly noticed jagged edges and weird textures a little more here than in Modern Warfare 2, especially.
Because I personally have noticed this even up until the most recent ones, where I feel like the Treyarch games always have kind of like this like muted like plastic look to them. And I don't know if Daniel agrees or disagrees, but they always had like this kind of just like, I don't know, like kind of like muddy. It's just, it looks weird compared to like Infinity Ward, where things feels like very sharp, very high res. And I don't know, I just feel like if you showed me, I feel like if you could show me a new Treyarch and a new Infinity Ward game, I can tell you which one's which.
Mm-hmm. They do use two different engines, and I think they had just recently announced that moving forward it will just be one.
Good.
That'll be really interesting to see if that that could honestly allow for more consistency throughout the games, and maybe they don't have to make these engines I like the idea that they're not like working in two separate ways. They like communicate with each other a little more, but I don't know a lot about the modern games. Obviously, I haven't played them yet, so I'm certainly interested to get to those. And next up, we're returning to Modern Warfare. Am I wrong? Am I right? Is Modern Warfare 3 coming up next?
Yep.
And frankly, I can't fucking wait. I can't wait, not only because I like Modern Warfare 1 and 2 the most, obviously, out of all of these games, but because what I've lightly heard about Modern Warfare 3 is that maybe it's stepped back, maybe it's a disappointment for some people, but then also maybe it's a great game. So I'm very excited to see where my thoughts come down on that game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see because I really thought this was going to be the one we would like have different opinions on, but like we kind of all agreed. So I'm like, okay, Modern Warfare 3 might be the one where we finally have to actually sit down and think about it. So.
Yeah. And I'm excited for that time. We got plenty more games to rank. We've got plenty more games, that end up getting more and more controversial. Where are those going to go on the list? Am I, as a new COD player, going to love one of the random ones unconditionally while everyone else thinks it's stupid? It's certainly possible. But thank you both for joining me, talking here about Call of Duty Black Ops. We've got more of these games in this sub-franchise to talk about, including Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, which is one of the much more recent ones, which we'll get to down the line eventually. Who knows when? I don't have the map in front of me.
It'll be a while.
But that's coming, and also, of course, we're returning to Modern Warfare not only for this game, but for Modern Warfare 2019 and for Modern Warfare 2, which comes out this year, which we'll be doing both of those back-to-back. But thank you for joining us. If you disagree, dear viewer, leave a comment for your ranking of the first 7 COD games, or any of the ones that you really want to talk about in our comments. You can join our Discord server. That link is at the top of the description. And of course, while you're down there, go subscribe to Backlog Banter, like this video, ring the bell, and also go check out Daniel's content over at Nerdic Gods. I will leave a link to that at the top of the description. But we did another COD game, boys.
What do the numbers mean?
What do they mean?
What do they mean? Please tell me.